Good evening. Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that rough start there, but let's get this thing rolling here because it is the Wrestle Talk Podcast, and I am Hardcore Hoss, and as always, I have myself a co-host here, and let's go ahead and bring him in, the one, the only DJ Big Sexy Chris Rodell.
What up, Hoss? How's everything going? You know what? That's what happens when we're live. Things happen live that you just can't control. So we're gonna put it behind us and roll on. So, Hoss, how's everything? How's life treating you?
Hey, everything's going okay. Yeah, one of these days I'll get this thing figured out as to why that seems to do that. But other than that, everything's going all right. And of course, here in a little bit, we'll be joined by Sonny Money Mayo. Looking forward to him as always.
And normally the second Tuesday of the month, it's usually me, you, and Luke Skywalker Roberts. He is on assignment tonight, so we will. We're gonna take things. We're gonna run with it, and we're gonna deal with it. We got two great guests. We got Christian Temple, who was on the call of the main event at UUCW with our own the Night Owl Renee Martinez, and then in the second hour we got Nebraska, someone that's making big things in Nebraska. Jason Strife is going to be with us, so we got a big show ahead of us. I'm pumped. Are you pumped?
Oh, always. Always looking forward to the Wrestle Talk Podcast, and
it's like the best. It's like the best part of the week. Really, it is. I found myself every Tuesday catching at least most of the show every single week. So,
yeah, definitely always. Even when I'm not here, I make sure to catch it. But, with all of our great fans and everything, this still would not be possible without our wonderful sponsors, So we'd like to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. We've got Everything Combat, Kincaid Arcade, Esports Bar Kansas City, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Royal Mills Transportation, Painter Dream Productions. We have Rathbun Engraving, where we get all of our Wrestle Talk Podcast mugs.
It makes everything taste better.
That's right. Everything tastes better coming out of one of these. They are only $20 plus shipping and handling. You can get your name engraved on them. Be sure to hit one of us up if you'd like to purchase one, because we'd love to ship one out to you. And then Me Fiesta KC Party Rentals, Nobleman's Barber Lounge. Be sure to ask for Pete the Barber. And of course, as always, the premier fantasy wrestling group, the FWWC.
And I know you're a big part of the FWWC. Are you a commissioner? Or are you just?
I am a general manager.
General
Manager of the Infinite Team, which right now we are in the lead. We're going to the first 6 wins. We have 5 wins, I believe. Inferno has 3 wins, 4 wins, something like that.
And you're calling everything down the line, down the middle, right?
I'm just doing the most that I can to keep my team going and hopefully come out on top of this thing. So,
yeah, it's good. Like I said, it's going to be a great night of wrestling talk. We got a lot to talk about. We can talk about Celeb Fest 3.
Wrestling fans, and welcome.
Whoops, sorry about that.
We can talk about Celeb Fest 3 that happened this past weekend. And we definitely are going to have to talk about, they've already announced Celeb Fest 4 and some big names.
I was going to say, we got a little bit of news for Celeb Fest 4 already. So
we'll take care of that.
Before we get into any of that, you know what we have to
do.
Yeah.
You can do Joey's part here. You can announce the national anthem here. Let me grab my little flag right here. We got this.
So as always, ladies and gentlemen, you know it's that time again. So go ahead, if you're wearing a hat, remove your hat, place your hand over your heart. It is time for the national anthem for the best damn country around, and that's America.
I think Maestro just had another aneurysm. I think Maestro every time that plays, it's like he's just having an aneurysm. I can just picture his face during that. So,
and of course that brings a tear to your eye every time. But I think it's for a bit of a different reason than Carl Lewis.
Well, yeah, Carl. Well, yeah, it's just I have no words, but no, this is gonna be a great show tonight. I'm so looking forward to it. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on with you guys. A lot of wrestling news has happened. I mean, with we had the Royal Rumble. I didn't get a chance to talk about that. We got AEW. We got a big AEW Dynamite show this week. So you know what? Let's just jump right in. Let's just do it. Let's just 2 feet. Let's do it. Let's do high spots.
There we go. Let's do it. Let's get this thing kicked off right with our theme from the man, DJ Money.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like lamb chops and dog shop. Coming through the screen of a laptop and non-stop like I wanna sleep in the blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and back drops. I'm a clock flash, feel like a barely fuck that ass on. We got the speed, but I stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know we about to start the show.
Now, just to confirm, DJ Money is not the same as Sonny Money Mayo. They are 2 completely different people, right? Just making sure.
Different.
Okay. I mean, I know Sonny's talented, but I mean, so I guess let's jump right into it. Let's talk about a little thing that happened locally up in your area. Celeb Fest 3. Did you go? Were you in attendance at Celeb Fest 3?
Honestly, I wanted to be in attendance, but I had a few things happen and didn't get to make it. But, I have seen pictures. I've seen updates from Chad about it. I've seen people posting about it. It looks like it was a big success.
That's what I was gonna say. It looked like I saw pictures that they were posting on their Facebook page, and it looked like it was an amazing time. Looked like everybody had a good time, and they've already announced Celeb Fest 4.
Yes, they have. As a matter of fact, give me just a second here, and I'll bring up the date for that, unless you have it handy there.
I didn't. That's the one thing I didn't write down. But
okay.
But I know it's in a different spot. I guess it's going back to the original spot where maybe Celeb Fest 2 was.
Yes, it's going back to where Celeb Fest 1 and 2 were.
Why did they move it to Celeb? Why did they? Do you know why they moved it? I mean, I guess that's not a question that you can answer.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have the answer to that. But
while you're looking,
it is going back to
while you're looking
for the place, and that is going to be May 15th, from 12 to 4, and
they've already announced like I've seen like 3 huge names already announced. I think the first one I saw was the New Age Outlaws. Billy Gunn and Road Dogg are going to be there.
Yes. They have announced the New Age Outlaws, Earl Hebner, the Hardy Boys, and also Tony Storm was announced today.
I saw that. That's gonna be awesome. I wish I could get up into that that I don't know. Maybe I might plan a trip to come up there and join the Wrestle Talk podcast up there and hit that up for the big Celeb Fest 4.
Yeah, we're not sure yet whether Wrestle Talk will have a table there or not. We're in discussions trying to make a final decision on that. But I know myself and Nightmare Jones, we have said one way or the other we're going. So we're making a point to be there. So
be there as a fan, maybe, but hopefully maybe we can get a table. I know we were a part of, was it Celeb Fest 1 or 2 that Wrestle Talk was a part of?
We were there for Celeb Fest 2.
Okay, yeah, and we got some good. I know you guys gave out a whole bunch of cards, and I'm sure you guys signed a whole bunch of autographs because we're just that darn good looking. So I mean, you put us up against like the Hardy Boys or something like that. We're gonna take all the women. So
there might have been autographs, but you weren't there. So,
I wasn't there.
It was myself and Nightmare Jones, and who wants our autograph? Our ugly mugs.
Nightmare Jones is a snitch fan, so I mean that's one thing. So I guess the biggest news of the week we have to talk about is WWE with a quote unquote quietly letting go of Shane McMahon because of problems backstage at the Royal Rumble. What is your opinion on that?
I honestly, from what I've heard, it sounds like Shane really has just really gotten too big for his boots, basically, and thought he could run things from the sounds of it, because he wanted to feature himself in the Royal Rumble, and he wanted to make sure that he had a good spot to come in the Royal Rumble.
Apparently, he wanted to come out like 1 or 2 and be in there the whole match. I don't really want to see that. I mean, I have no problem with Shane McMahon being in the Royal Rumble. I mean,
well, and then there was actually a mix-up. I don't know if you read this or not. There was actually a mix-up where they played his music, and
that's right. One number too early, it was supposed to be Randy Orton went out at that time, right?
Right. It was supposed to be Randy Orton, and they played Shane's music, and Orton refused to enter to Shane's music and told him, "You're going."
I believe Randy Orton said, "I'm not going out to Shane McMahon. I'm not going out to this music. So either you're going out or." So I mean, and apparently it's going to change the whole WrestleMania, because Shane McMahon was supposed to be featured pretty prominently, and WrestleMania was supposed to have a high matchup on the card, varying degrees of who you believe and who he was supposed to face. But so now they're kind of scrambling. I mean, Does this mean we're going to see the return of John Cena probably for a match, the Undertaker for a match? I mean, they're looking for something high on the card, or do you just try to build around the rest of your roster?
Honestly, I would like to see them just build around the rest of the roster. I think they have enough talent to feature without actually going back and looking at some of these other people and saying, "Oh, let me bring that out, or let me bring this person out." I think they can do it without doing that.
So what you're saying is you're not excited about Bill Goldberg and Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia?
No, not at all.
Well, we know what Maestro thinks of that. So this is Goldberg's last match on his contract. So, I mean, is it a foregone conclusion that Brock Lesnar is going to walk out of the Elimination Chamber as the champion? He's going to take on Roman Reigns on night 2 of WrestleMania, and probably what's going to be a title versus title match?
I believe that's what's going to happen. But, you were talking about the Goldberg, and, when it comes to bringing Goldberg back, I think there's only one thing that can be said about that whole situation.
I love Sheiky baby. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess you could technically have maybe Goldberg or Lesnar cost Roman the title, like Goldberg or like Reigns cost Lesnar the title at a Royal Rumble, and then put an opponent against Goldberg. I mean, I don't know who on the Raw side you would really want to see wrestle Roman or wrestle Bill Goldberg. I mean, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
But speaking of Royal Rumble and some of the people that came out of Royal Rumble, I actually read an article as well that if you noticed at Royal Rumble and then on Monday Night Raw, Ronda Rousey actually was not very receptive to the fans. She actually was kind of cold with them.
Yes, I agree.
And then Friday night, her demeanor totally changed towards those fans. And my understanding is WWE actually talked to her and told her, look, right now you got the fans behind you. You need to embrace the fans. And her reasoning for not really wanting to embrace the fans was because in her first run with WWE, when she was a face and then they had Charlotte Flair come out and beat her with that kendo stick, the fans went from cheering her to booing her like that.
And it probably, and to be honest with you, it probably just is because the world she comes from the world of MMA. You have to be super serious when you get into an MMA ring. So that's probably her problem. I mean, she's okay in the ring. She hasn't picked up the backstage side of wrestling, where the promo side, where, she could really use a mouthpiece. I don't know I don't think you would give her Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman is probably the best mouthpiece in the WWE, right? Well, probably the only mouthpiece in the WWE, but maybe just give her someone to help her talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But apparently when that happened, it actually her feelings were actually hurt over that. She said that the fans really hurt her when they turned on her.
Oh.
And so when she came out this time, she did not want to embrace the fans because she said that they are just going to turn and do it again. She fears that. So.
Well, I mean, if she keeps going the way she's going, yes, they are. They're going to get behind Charlotte Flair, and Charlotte Flair is not a likable character. Let's just be honest with you. Charlotte Flair is not a likable character.
Well, and she has to realize too, and don't get me wrong, I never booed Ronda Rousey. See, that's one of my women, hey, but
she would kick your ass. I'm just saying.
And I'd enjoy every minute of it, but that's beside the point. But she has to realize this is wrestling, and wrestling fans are fickle like that.
Right.
They can be at your back 1 minute and booing you the next,
and they can see it. They can see it in your demeanor too. They're if they know that you're not really digging it, they're not going to dig it. I mean, how long has the fans wanted to boo Roman Reigns, and then when he actually came back as a heel, it was great. It was honestly great. But I mean, and they wanted to boo John Cena for forever. But I mean, so he gets the 50-50 reception. So I just hope that Ronda and Charlotte are going to be the headliner. It looks like Brock and Roman are going to be the other headliner for the 2 nights. And I absolutely love WrestleMania being 2 nights. I could this because you can have more matches and you could spread it out, and you're not watching a wrestling show for 5-6 hours. So I mean, 3.5 hours is probably good, closer to the 3-hour mark. I think that's good. So I absolutely love WrestleMania being 2 nights.
Yeah, I enjoyed it last year, and I'm looking forward to it this year with the 2 nights of WrestleMania.
And I also I think apparently the NXT Stand and Deliver event is going to be the Saturday afternoon matinee show, so that might be a little odd. I think it's going to take away from WrestleMania. The plans for WrestleMania still are in flux, because apparently the Hall of Fame is going to take place on Saturday after SmackDown. It's going to be so they're still trying to plan it, even though we're 2 months away from it. You would think that this would all be in the books, ready to go.
Oh yeah, but it's going to take some building and everything to really get people excited about it. Although I think the excitement is starting to build, but by the time WrestleMania comes around, everybody is really going to be excited.
Oh man, I love WrestleMania. Royal Rumble is my favorite event. I'm just a battle. I like battle royals no matter what. Depending on, doesn't matter what kind of a battle royal it is, but the Royal Rumble is always good because you always get that surprise. You kind of feel bad for Kofi Kingston when he kind of missed the his big spot in the match that he always does, the save himself and walk on his hands back to the ring. You kind of feel sorry for him. Just the way the camera was, you couldn't not have him be eliminated. So
yeah. So we're just a couple minutes away here from our first featured guest, who is actually in the back right now, Christian Temple. So, and hopefully, hopefully here soon, Sonny Money Mayo will be joining us here for at least some of the interview. I know.
Yeah, his darn day job's got him actually working. I mean, what is up with that? I mean,
don't they know better than to work him on a Wrestle Talk night? What's up with that?
Right. So, Haas, what's kind of what's going on in the wrestling world that you want to talk about during High Spots?
Well, I know that WDWA has a good show coming up this weekend in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Looking forwards to going down there and seeing those guys as always. What do you got going on in your area?
There is actually a lot going on in this area on Saturday night. We've got SICW at the East Carondelet Community Center. They have a show on Saturday. I believe they have a free taping on Sunday as well. Got MMWA at the historic South Broadway Athletic Club. Fallout. It's the beginning of their junior heavyweight tournament. And in the main event, Benjamin Trust is going to take on the Butcher Damian Blade for the MMWA heavyweight title. And WLW, World League Wrestling, is coming back at the Race Arena. They've got a big show. Got Derek Stone, Camaro Jackson, John Webb, a whole bunch of people going to be there. So in the St. Louis area, we got a whole bunch of shows this weekend. So if you can't find any wrestling action this weekend, then I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, it's a great time. We got, we talked about Celeb Fest. Dynamo Pros coming back at the end of the month. We got 2 shows in 2 weeks. One at the end of January 20 or February 26th at the Concordia Turners Hall, and then we're back in Arnold at the Arnold Eagles Club on Friday the 4th of March. So lots happening here. I know a lot of stuff's happening up your way with WDWA, and I see the pictures that you post with Susie and Joey occasionally. So I think wrestling is thriving right now. I mean, just wait till you get to Dallas on WrestleMania weekend. How many shows are going to be there? So,
yeah, it's going to be crazy. And like say this weekend, I'm going out to WDWA. They got DeMarcus Kane versus Israel Sharif Fakour, who's been a guest on the show. Big Money Ivan Ali versus the Hungarian hero Laszlo Arpad. And that's going to actually be for the Pro Wrestling Empire's Heavyweight Championship.
Is that a different company, or is that?
Yeah, that's a different company.
Okay, that's kind of cool when companies work together like that instead of just like. And
then we're going to have a tag team titles match with the Rodriguez Dynasty versus the Sambo Show, and we've actually had one member of the Sambo Show on here before and been trying to get
we've also had ISP was on recently.
Yeah,
too, right?
ISP's been on. And there's going to be a women's title match, and this is going to be a no DQ Falls Count Anywhere, where Lynette Dallas versus Kenzie James, and Kenzie James is currently the champion, so that should be a heck of a match. And Blue Chipper Jordan Evans versus El Genesis Jefe, which is actually a rematch. El Genesis actually took the title from Jordan Evans, the TV championship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a rematch, and there's a couple other matches on the card, but it's going to be a good show, and I'm looking forward to jam-packed, full of action.
So Renee actually posted something in the comment section about the Miz being the Miz, how the Miz is the Miz has been one of my favorite characters for a long time. I didn't like him at first because he was just kind of this goofy guy that got eliminated from battle royals in 30 seconds and stuff like that. But he has really become a big part of the WWE. He does anything the WWE asks for. He very rarely gets injured. I don't think I've ever seen him out for too long. But apparently he made Dominic Mysterio interesting last night. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Mysterio Dominic Ray feud?
They really did have a good match last night. It was a decent match for Dominic. My problem with the Miz, though, is the fact that WWE has just seemed to turn him into a jobber. Every time he gets in the ring, he really doesn't pick up the win very much. He's putting other people over more than getting any wins for himself. And, that can be good in a way, but it can be bad in a way too. So,
yeah, I mean, the Miz is a good. He's a great. He kind of reminds me of MJF a little bit. Maybe MJF is a little. I mean, MJF has a lot to learn. I mean, he's good at what he does, but he's still pretty darn green. So, and Ray is on the cut. I mean, Rey Mysterio is becoming like a fine wine. He's getting better with age. You know what I mean? He just he never puts on a bad match. So I don't know. I don't get it. He's found the fountain of youth. You would think that he would slow down and his, he's got an older kid,
Yeah, but Ray just doesn't seem to slow down at all. And, that's absolutely awesome to see.
Yeah, he can put on a good match with just about anybody. So is our guest in the backstage area ready?
Yes, our guest has been here. He seems to be ready to go. So and I have word that Sonny should be here probably in about 10 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and bring him in, and then Sonny can join us when he comes in. So would you like to do the honors, Mr. Rodell?
I got you. Episode 381, the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome. He was on the call at UUCW with our very own, the Night Owl, Renee Martinez. And he is one part of the Rebel Hearts tag team. Please welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the Epic Heart, Christian Temple.
Love the entrance music. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Christian, welcome to
I've done many radio shows. I've done many podcasts, but that's the first time I've ever been brought on with music for an entrance. So that popped me pretty good there. That's awesome.
Well, we would normally bring you on probably with whatever you use as your entrance music, but we get hit with copyrights, so
that makes sense.
So we just kind of make things generic and make things hard. So welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Hope you're doing well. You're sporting your KC Chiefs stuff. I know it's probably hard for you to watch the Super Bowl this week.
Man, that's a whole different can of worms right there too. But yeah, the reason there is a whole lot of Kansas City Chiefs memorabilia behind me is because I actually have my own podcast that I do where myself and my good friend Trajan, he's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. We talk about football news. You know, we go over scores, highlights, stuff like that. We're both big football nuts. So we just decided one day, it's like, you know what, we enjoy talking about football. Why not just start our own show and where we can talk about it as much as we want, talk about our teams as much as we want. So that's the reason for all the stuff in the background.
Awesome.
You know,
So
very interrupt you there, Chris, but
I was just gonna say,
talk about Kansas City Chiefs stuff, and that makes a perfect segue to bring in this man right here. He is the co-host for the night. He is a big Chiefs fan himself. He is the one, the only Sonny Money Mayo.
My God, we've turned into a Chiefs podcast.
Hey, that's a podcast I can get behind every day.
Hey, we're already affiliated with one of those gentlemen. Shout out to my boy Adam Frex. Talking Dynasty podcast. He holds it down for all the Chiefs talk. So shout out to him.
And he's going to be actually, I heard about, he's actually going to be on Jeremy Carp, the Maestro, is starting a new podcast, and he's going to be one of his first guests on there. So
absolutely, man. To sit down with Adam, he is absolutely great. I love talking with him. I play softball with him. He's a friend of mine. We went to high school. But his takes on the Kansas City Chiefs and just everything in the world of sports, top notch, man, top notch. But Hardcore Hoss, Road Dog, thank you, gentlemen, for holding it down. I'm helping host tonight. You guys have been keeping the flow going. I was a little bit late, and I heard you guys say on the show it was because of work. Now, that is somewhat true. but what really happened was, I was out in my truck today and I got extremely hungry, so I decided to stop and get me a slice of Quick Trip pizza. And when I ate that pizza, my head did the Emily Rose Exorcist. I turned green, purple, and black. I puked. I did 10 handstands. I had to do a rain dance in the whole 9 yards just to get that nasty, disgusting taste out of my mouth.
Well, see, that's where you're wrong, because your take on Quick Trip Pizza is absolutely wrong. Quick Trip Pizza is great. I mean, it's not something I go to right away because I'm a St. Louis guy, so I go to Emo's. So I love the Quick Trip Pizza. And if you ever come up here, if you ever get through Illinois, make sure you stop at if you can stop at a Casey's Pizza or Casey's somewhere.
Casey's is top notch. I mean, Again, if it's 2 a.m. and I've had a couple beers in me, which I don't drink anymore, but if I did have a couple beers in me back in the old Money Mayo days, so how I would probably rank it would be wet sock from a bum, the taste of rat tail, and then a Quick Trip pizza. That's how much I disregard Quick Trip pizzas. Quick Trip, you're great on gas, you're great on fountain drinks, you're great on your service, but get your pizza game together. ASAP.
Okay, so So I'm sure this is riveting pizza talk for Christian. So let's talk a little bit about Christian going on through the war. Apparently, he is chasing the Knockout Kings in KWA. So you want to speak to what's going on with you and the Knockout Kings?
Yes, the Kansas Wrestling Alliance is a promotion. Well, it's a conglomeration of promotions. Actually, it's XWE, Prairie Championship Wrestling, and most recently, as you mentioned earlier, I did commentary for the main event of this show, the United Underground Championship Wrestling, that just had an awesome show go down in Wichita, Kansas. But the stuff you're bringing up now is, of course, the Knockout Kings, and that was the culmination of our feud that was supposed to finally end in Hutchinson, Kansas at the historic Memorial Hall. And unfortunately, we came out on the losing end of that one. We lost the KWA tag team titles to them, but they wouldn't grant us a rematch. So myself and my partner, the massive legend Justin Gray, we've been fighting. We've been clawing our way. We've been winning tag team titles elsewhere across the Midwest in order to prove ourselves worthy of another shot at the Knockout Kings, hopefully in the next few months or so.
So Sonny could probably speak to what's going on in the KC area. He's a KC wrestling expert, so maybe he can weigh in a little bit on what's going on with the KWA tag team titles.
Well, and just all of Kansas, and I appreciate you passing that off to me, Road Dogg. And I've actually had the pleasure to announce Epic Heart Christian Temple and massive legend Justin Gray to the ring for XWE. Shout out to Billy Simmons and shout out to everybody over there in XWE and KWA. But Christian, correct me if I'm wrong here, man. Was that your first tag team title win in XWE when you guys beat the Knockout Kings and I had the pleasure of announcing you guys as the new champions? Was that the first time you guys won the tag team titles there?
That is correct. We have been teaming together since early mid 2019, and of course COVID hit, so that skewed our progress a little bit there too. But yes, we that show in at the Salina Fieldhouse was our first title win over the Knockout Kings, and that was an awesome feeling. The crowd came unglued for it, so it was a night I will definitely never forget.
I tried my best. I want to be my own man when it comes to announcing, but also, obviously I look up to Howard Finkel and the Joey Styles and all the great announcers professional wrestling has ever seen. But when you guys won, now I was sitting there, obviously, I'm just ring announcing, so I'm watching the match. But I was so emotionally involved in that match because it was a great match, and not just you guys winning the titles, but the match itself was a great professional wrestling match. But I was so emotionally involved when you guys won and the bell rung. I stood up and started clapping. I forgot for a half a second that I was I had to announce you guys. So when I announced you guys,
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's happened to, because I ring announced in the St. Louis area, and I believe when Mike Outlaw won his first title a couple of years ago, I kind of jumped up and started clapping. So
yeah, but so when you guys won them titles, man, I tried to give my I guess you could say my best Howard Finkel and I could tell the crowd was just feeling you guys as they always do, man. I've got to come to XWE shows also as a fan. And, man, the pop you guys get, and not just because of – I don't want to say only because of who you are or your music or your entrance or whatnot, but you and Justin Gray have such a flow in the ring, man. And I know you've teamed up with other people, but is Justin so far – let's be honest here. Let's not do a politically correct answer. Is Justin your favorite tag team partner so far?
Absolutely, 100%. Justin Gray, we go back a lot further than just pro wrestling. We grew up in the same hometown. We lived just a few blocks away from each other. We met each other in 4th grade. And the reason we became such good friends, became such, almost brothers, is because our love for wrestling. I mean, there was times he would come over to my house and we'd watch WWE pay-per-views. I would go over to his house. We'd watch pay-per-views over there. I mean, just the bond that we have just based on wrestling alone has made our partnership, that much stronger, and our friendship that much stronger. And I was very honored to have him as my best man at my wedding here not too long ago. But yeah, I've had plenty of partners. I've worked with several partners in my career, but absolutely Justin Gray, hands down, my best friend and easily the greatest tag team partner I could ever ask for.
So I see you debuted in 2015. Where did you train at? Who did you train with? What got? Obviously, a love of wrestling got you into this business, but what actually made you want to become a wrestler?
I mentioned I watched pay-per-views with Justin Gray, but I've been watching wrestling as long as I can remember. I mean, I still have a very vivid memory of my dad ordering a pay-per-view where Kane and Mankind defended the World Tag Team titles against Big Show and The Undertaker. That's like one of my earliest memories as a pro wrestling fan. And for some reason, Kane was the one that I really, stuck with. He was such a larger than life figure. And it was just someone that, I became emotionally invested in. No matter if he was a good guy or a bad guy, whenever he was on the screen, my eyes were glued to the television set. So it really wasn't until, 2009, 2010 that I really gave any thought to like, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I at least want to try this and all that. I mean, I have some very supportive, parents and all that too. Obviously they want what's best for me. And obviously they're, how parents are. It's like, do whatever you want. Just make sure you've got a backup plan and all that too. So that's ultimately the deal I had to make with them. I still had to go to school and all that too. But yeah. And actually I didn't necessarily make my debut in 2015. I always say 2015 because when I really started, going out on my own and traveling around, trying to get more experience, trying to become a better professional wrestler. I actually started training at the MWE School of Pro Wrestling back in late 2012, but never really got too many opportunities to go wrestle anywhere too. I could only go where my trainer allowed me to, which is only the places that he was willing to travel to. So I learned a great bit, at the wrestling school, but I didn't really get a chance to learn on the job, which I think as a wrestler, you kind of have to do. You kind of have to be able to feel it out in the crowd and work with that.
And when you first start out, it's more about reps. They talk about it in football. It's like it's all about the rep. It's the starters reps. If you're not learning, I mean, you need to get out there and work. So yeah, so it's just one of those things. You remember who your first match was against?
I do actually. It was in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, on March 16th, 2013 against Chris Vale, who now goes by Prince Vale, actually. So another guy that I've known ever since I started my journey into the pro wrestling scene.
Cool. Have you been in the St. Louis area at any time?
I have not. I've yet to have the opportunity to compete in Missouri in general. Unfortunately, I hear it's it's an historic wrestling state. I mean, it's not said enough. St. Louis wrestling, even Kansas City territory. I mean, wrestling at the Chase. I mean, you talk about St. Louis wrestling. It's one of the most historic territories in the world, honestly. So it would be awesome to get an opportunity. Obviously, I know Missouri is a licensed state and all that too. I would love to have the opportunity to compete at that level and compare myself with some awesome independent talent that's well known in the Missouri area.
Yeah, because I work for a company here in St. Louis, and yeah, we're always kind of scouting. So you never know. So it is. I mean, just like I said earlier, there are 3 shows within like 30 miles of each other in this weekend. So if you, like I told Haas earlier, if you can't find wrestling this weekend in the St. Louis area, then you're not really trying. So
absolutely. I agree.
So Christian, I got to jump in here, man. I mean, and we're sitting here talking about historic wrestling in Kansas City, historic wrestling in St. Louis, but I really don't want to discredit the fact, and maybe not so many people know in the Kansas City or St. Louis area, but what KWA is doing down there in the Salina area, I mean, it is awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a host of the show. I'm not just saying that because you're on the show, but legit, I will tell anybody that who is a fan of professional wrestling, take your time, go down there, go catch an XWE show or any shows affiliated with the KWA. I mean, you guys are doing excellent things down there. And one of the things that I like the most that I've seen, especially with Billy's group over there in XWE, is storytelling and long-term storytelling. That's not something you see at too many independent wrestling shows. but you guys do an excellent job with that over there. So kind of keeping with XWE here a little bit, is there a wrestler or maybe even a tag team that you would like to face personally?
It's as far as like the KWA itself, there are a lot more tag teams, and this is a statement of how many people want to be a part of KWA. There are a lot more tag teams that are willing to travel to the KWA. There's not too many established tag teams that are actually here in Kansas, which is a shame. But it's cool that teams from all across, even the Southwest region, the Midwest region, even though teams have come from California, teams have come from, the Carolinas, teams have come from Florida, to compete for the KWA. So that goes back what you were saying. The following for KWA right now is getting stronger and stronger each show they run. So it's awesome whenever Justin Gray and I get a chance, to test our mettle against other teams that have made the trek, to try to prove themselves against a team like us. It's truly an honor that they want to make their mark in the Midwest, especially for the KWA, because I mentioned those three promotions: XWE, PCW, UCW. Yep. Kansas wrestling is in full swing right now. You've got WWX, out in Western Kansas. You've got traditional American pro wrestling, which I'll be there for that one up in Harrington, Kansas, and of course you've got KCXW. You've got Journey Pro. You've got I don't want to butcher it, as a Dynamic Pro, I believe, out in the Kansas City area.
Dynamic Wrestling. Yeah.
Dynamic Wrestling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've got so many companies that are just appearing out of nowhere, and not just appearing and, just going by the wayside. They're appearing and they're getting stronger. The talent that they're bringing in that is willing to travel from all across, the country to come to the Midwest is just mind-boggling. And it's such a humbling experience to see the mark that we're making in the Midwest for the wrestling scene.
And in doing some research for the interview tonight, I saw that you posted something of the Cotillion by World Class Revolution, I believe. And you're going to be on this. It looks like, are you going to be on the same card as the Icon and Hall of Famer Sting?
I have not been confirmed for that card yet, but someone that is a very good friend of mine too, and is extremely popular, and she has earned every bit of success that she has worked so hard for. Stormy Renee. She will be on that show too. It has not been announced who she will be facing, but she is on the poster, and I've always considered her a little sister of mine. I've known her since the first day she stepped into the pro wrestling business, and everything that she's done, I couldn't be more proud of her to be a part of that show.
I was gonna say, I think she's been on the I believe she's been on the show recently.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's been on the show. She was on the show when we did the tournament for the women's.
Yes, the women's tournament. Yeah, when we did the
and I'm a massive Stormy Renee fan, man. You know what? I don't care. I'll go out on a limb here. I think she's the best women's wrestler in Kansas, and that's not shade towards anybody else, but every time she steps in the ring, she holds it down. She's putting on at least a 3, 4, 5-star match every single time, and fans are going nuts. She's got them in the cup of her hand. And I when she came on Wrestle Talk podcast, and she was only on here briefly, but hey, she's part of the family now. Anytime you're on Wrestle Talk podcast, you're part of the family. That's it. No
I think we need to look into getting her in here for a full interview, because I know she was helping us with the women's tournament, because she worked with someone that was a part of the women's tournament that we did, that marathon that we did. So.
So Christian, so about Stormy Renee, I mean, is she officially or unofficially part of the Rebel Hearts?
The Rebel Hearts extend to multiple states.
Okay.
We have members ranging from just recently I became a tag team champion up in Nebraska with Colton Alexander. So I guess by proxy that makes him a member of the Rebel Hearts. Down in Oklahoma City, our good friend the Spotlight Warren Powers, he's officially a part of the Rebel Hearts. When we had Jim Gemini for that big April show, when we had promotions all across the country coming to Hutchinson, Kansas, we teamed up with her. She officially became a member of the Rebel Hearts. I mean, we've got members of Rebel Hearts everywhere. I mean, heck, we don't have a ring announcer friend as a Rebel Heart member, so we are taking applications for that right now. If you'd like to, you're off to a good start with the Chiefs memorabilia there. So
I'm a ring announcer, but I'm in the St. Louis area, so
we may need a Missouri member.
I mean, I was a Rams fan for a while, so but here's the thing: the Rams can never mind. We'll talk. I'm rooting for the Bengals. Sorry.
Darn you, Stan Kroenke.
All right, so kind of keep this flowing on what you hear, Christian. You spoke on multiple talents coming to the KWA. Not so much you traveling out, but you staying really based in Kansas, a couple other states here and there, but really based in Kansas. And with all these talents coming in, and there's so many veterans in this business that I know have came through KWA. What I really want to know from you, and I asked this to all the guys because I love asking this question and hearing the different answers from it. But since you've been in this business, since you've been a part of KWA, what is the best piece of advice you have gotten?
I love answering this question because the story is so funny. So this was back in this was while I wasn't wrestling, as often as I wanted to. I remember this was back in 2014. Some random show I got booked. I don't even remember what the town was and all that too. So come back from the match. I'm not happy. I'm pissed off. It was not a good match. I didn't have a good time. You'll know this name, Tommy Snow.
Oh yeah.
Came back to the locker room after his match, and he just went out and did a hardcore match where there was barbed wire, thumbtacks. He's busted open. He's got blood all over him. He's got glass sticking out of him. He's got tacks out of him too. He walks by me and he's like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I said, I'm fine. I'm just not happy with the match. And he looked at me and he's like, hey, are you hurt? Well, no. And he's like, is your opponent hurt? Like, no. Well, then you had a good match. And I was still, a little angry at myself at the time too, but when I really sat down and thought about that, he was right. He was 100% right, and that is the single greatest piece of advice I think I've probably ever gotten in this business. So, yeah. Shout out to Tommy Snow. I've never forgotten his words, and I've passed it on to many a person that have come back through the curtain with the same anger and frustration that I have, and I can tell that it may not register at that moment, but I know one day it will. So once again, shout out Tommy Snow. Thank you for that advice. It really helped me out.
So serious question here. What's it like working with the Night Owl on commentary? Let's just get this one out of the way. So
as someone that's only done commentary a handful of times, it's nice to have someone on commentary that has as much respect for the business as the Night Owl does. He's not just going on there and, just wanting to call moves and all that too. He's invested in the stories. He's invested in how the match is supposed to look, how it's supposed to sound, how the people at home are you supposed to understand what's happening in front of what is being projected to them, both visually and audibly. So that's something I look forward when I've had matches before where the commentary in the background is just so unbearable that I'll watch my own match on mute because it's just taking away from it at that point. I'm excited to watch it back and learn something, but I was like, I got to watch this on silent. Night Owl was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and it gave me something to do, something to add to the story, add to the drama of my best friend going to war with this monster, this carnivore, in a match that's it's a straight up death match, right? So right. It's nice when you have announcers that can add to the match and not so much, just be a part of the match, if that makes sense.
You have to know the backstory of the wrestlers. You have to know I've done some commentary. I'm not saying it's been the greatest commentary, but you have to know the backstories. You have to know where things are. You need to know the history of the wrestlers and the history between the wrestlers, because you can always bring that back up, So Night Owls. I've heard several of the Night Owls matches on YouTube from different federations or different companies, and it's always a money product. No offense, Sonny, it's a money product.
Hey, no, none taken. And you know what? I'll take a couple seconds out of this interview, and I'm really enjoying this with you, Christian. But this is a straight shoot, guys. Rene Martinez. You guys call him the Night Owl, but Rene Martinez. He is my best friend. He's the godfather to my kids. I've been friends with him for 20 years. And, when 8-9 years ago now, I've always been a mark for professional wrestling. I've always been a massive, massive fan. 8-9 years ago, if I asked him to list off professional wrestlers, he could probably tell you Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that was it. So I took him to his first wrestling show, independent wrestling show, and all he did from there was just take the ball and skyrocket, and he's doing amazing things, not only as a commentator, but as a ring announcer here in Wrestle Talk podcast and just in the Midwest professional wrestling community. So big shout out to Renee. Big shout out to the Night Owl, man. I'm proud of him. I'm proud to call him a friend. I'm proud to call him a brother. And he puts a lot of love and effort and energy into professional wrestling, and that's why it sounds so good. You know what I mean? Like he gives a shit. He gives a shit. He wants it to sound good. And just like you, Christian, you care about your match. Yes, you came out of it not hurt, and your opponent was not hurt, but you care about your match. Renee's the same way with commentary. Renee's the same way with ring announcing. I'm the same way. I don't know how many times that I've been on Wrestle Talk, even before I was a host, just to come on here and say my 15, 20-minute spiel and get off of here and go, man, that sounded like Quick Trip Pizza.
and it's even with that, with the with what we've done here at the Wrestle Talk podcast, how we've taken it from completely to an audio thing to where we've built the video in now, and we're always looking to invest in ourselves. I bought myself a light and a pair of headphones to make everything look and sound good. Have an Ethernet cable, so I mean, I put stuff up behind me. I do have to take down the Santa Claus head eventually, but no, Renee is good people.
Yep. No, absolutely. So, Christian, I have a question for you that's going to come out of left field. I'll throw a little bit of backstory to this. I was watching Royal Rumble with Night Owl at his big mansion, and we were sitting there talking about the show and whatnot. And I had a question pop in my mind, and I think it's a legit question. So you are going to be the first wrestler, and the first time on Wrestle Talk podcast, me asking this question, all right? So
all right, let's do it.
From a little bit of left field.
Let's do it.
Has there been any point in your career where you have been on either in the ring or waiting to get tagged in, but been out there in front of the audience, and you had to either pee or poop?
Oh, every time I walk out the curtain. No, that's almost like an inside joke with all of us wrestlers too. It's like you're getting warmed up, you stretched out, you're getting ready to go, getting ready to walk through the curtain. The match in front of you is going on in the ring too, and then just without fail, whoever's standing around there has to go to the ring. We all look at each other and go, "Yep, my match is coming up. I gotta pee."
Yep.
It never fails. It never fails. I've never, knock on wood, I've never, felt like I've had to, go number 2 before I had to go wrestle, which thank God for that, because that would be horrifying. I couldn't imagine that. I've only had one instance where I thought I was going to throw up in a match. Okay. So, I mean, it happens to everybody. I have seen guys throw up in the middle of the ring and had to wrestle after them. So that's always fun. But
we have a rule at Dynamo Pro Wrestling. It's from the promoter is like, you do not puke or poop in the ring. You make sure you get to underneath the ring and to the apron so you can do it there.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule.
Ooh.
I appreciate that. I can appreciate that. No, but yeah, it's if you don't have, a little bit of nervousness or butterflies before you go out through the curtain, then you really shouldn't be doing this. It just shows you don't care. That's just my opinion on the whole deal. So, I mean, you can be comfortable, right. It's like, if you do it long enough, it's like, all right, just, punching in like, Sam Sheepdog, morning Ralph, morning Sam, just go out and work, right. That's all it really is. But yeah, if you don't, get a little bit of, uneasiness in there, you just don't care. That's just how I feel about it.
I'm a ball of nerves every time I have to ring announce or I'm doing if I'm not sitting in the crowd as a fan, even if I'm working security, you know what I mean? I have a ball of nerves. And I think it was Taz who said it best. Cause he did his WWE run And, towards the end, he was really injured. But he also said, I don't get those butterflies anymore. I'm at that curtain and my music hits and I don't have that nervousness no more. That's when it's time for me to climb out of the ring. So yeah, man. So now I have another question here for you. So we see your tag team partner do a death match. Will we see Epic Heart do a death match?
Well, and it's who was it? Sting said it best. One thing's for sure. You're never for sure.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
we shall see how the future turns out.
Yeah. Is there any match in particular that you ever want to be a part of, whether it be a ladder match, lumberjack, table, TLC?
The only match that you just mentioned that I have been a part of is a lumberjack match. Is funny enough. I've never been part of a TLC. I've never been in a tables match. I've never been in a ladder match. It's just I've just never had the closest thing I've done a street fight where there was steel chairs and trash cans involved and just never
have you ever
involved in the story where a ladder had to be involved.
Have you ever done a cage match?
I have not. I have been on shows that have had cage matches though, so it's always cool. I think Sonny can even agree. There's KWA, XWE. They have an awesome setup with a giant blue steel cage that they have too. And most recently, Kit Reaver and Drake Gallows had an absolute amazing match, blowaway match, and it was awesome to see it take place in a steel cage. And they told a great story, and it's one of those things, anything, if it's done too many times, it's going to get watered down and people won't care. Cage matches in KWA still mean something because there's probably only been like 4 or 5 in the last 5 years.
That's the problem is promotions now. They want the instant strike. They don't build the storyline because if you're gonna do a cage match, you really need to make it mean something.
Absolutely.
It needs to build over months, and even some of the specialty matches, even a street fight, you can't just go from having a regular match one month to having a street fight the next month. It doesn't make any sense. It's all storytelling. So
Absolutely, I agree.
And that's what I said at the beginning of this interview, man. All of KWA and especially XWE and Billy Simmons, I can't sing my praises enough. And that's not because I want to ring announce down there again. They are get good. Hey, but my messages are open. But seriously, man, they really do hold down storylines. And I've been going to independent wrestling shows not only in the Midwest, but also when I go back home to the East Coast in the Philly and Jersey area. And even as popular as independent wrestling is out there, and they could have a card with former WWE stars and WCW and TNA, and you bring all these stars, but there's no storyline. And it drives me crazy. Listen, I don't want to sound like an old head here where I say, it's just flippy high spots. I mark out for Ricochet. I mark out for Will Ospreay. I mark out for PWG type of matches and cards. But let it make sense. Let there be a story to what you are presenting, okay? There's a lot of fans who are in that 18 to 35 range that want that story. You know what I mean? Yes, of course, there's kids out there, and they don't know half the stuff. But those 18 to 35-year-olds who are bringing their wife to the show, or bringing their girlfriend to the show, or getting in trouble with their wife and girlfriend because they're going to a 3-hour wrestling show. You know what I mean? They're making that investment, whether it's 2 or 3 hours. At the very least, let it make sense. Even if the matches aren't crisp, clean cut, let the stories make sense. And I cannot preach that enough, man. So
I'm in agreement. Absolutely.
So, Christian, what is it that you're looking forward to the most in 2022? Is there anything that that you got up and coming that you're looking forward to?
Like I said, it's just I feel like even though we've been teaming up since 2019, I feel like myself and Justin Gray have only scratched the surface of what we're capable of as a tag team. So every single time we get an opportunity to go out, in front of a crowd and, prove ourselves as one of the best, it just adds another layer of excitement every single time we get that opportunity. So we're always looking to go to new promotions and try to test our mettle against new and established tag teams in that area. We're always willing to do our best to try to establish ourselves in any any part of the country that we can, honestly. So we're not afraid to travel. We're not afraid to change. But we're definitely most excited right now for everything that's coming along in Kansas wrestling. And we're happy to be a big part of that.
That's all. That is completely awesome. So, we're kind of at the point of the show where we do this segment called Shoot and Shout. So I'm going to ask Cost to come back up here real quick because we have an intro to Shoot and Shout. We're going to give Christian a 15-30 seconds to a minute just to talk about whatever he wants to. He can talk about the Knockout Kings. He can talk about whatever he wants to talk about. So
Christian, this is your time. This is Shoot and Shout, buddy. Anything you want, whether it's professional wrestling, whether it's walking into a bathroom and there being no toilet paper, everything in between. This is your 30 seconds to a minute to get whatever you want to get off your chest, bro.
Even if it's crappy pizza.
Even if it's crappy pizza. So Haas, go ahead and hit that theme music. I think you'll enjoy this.
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up. Everything is fucked, everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify ripping someone's head off. No human contact, and if you interact, your life's on contract. Your best bet's to stay away, motherfucker. It's just one of those days. It's all about the he says, boys.
Man, oh man, that almost threw me off my game there for a second. That's an awesome intro. I love that. All right.
So let's give Christian the floor here, and he can talk about anything he wants. So,
all right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, at the Memorial Hall in Hutchinson, Kansas, Knockout Kings, you stole our KWA tag team titles. You walked away the champs, and there's nothing that we can do about that. And you said yourselves there would be no rematch. Well, let me tell you something. Justin Gray and I will fight to the bitter end to make sure that we get you in the ring one more time. It doesn't matter if it's Salina. It doesn't matter if it's Hutchinson. It doesn't matter if it's Wichita. Wherever it is, Justin Gray and I will get our shot at those tag team titles. And believe me, the saying goes, if you mess with the king, you best not miss. Well, trust me when I say we're coming for the gold and we're coming for blood. We're coming for your heads.
Oh, Christian Temple, very, 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 very nice. First of all, thank you for coming on the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. So go ahead and throw out all your social medias, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your Twitters. So the fans of the Wrestle Talk podcast can follow you and see what's coming up with you.
Absolutely. Facebook.com/One Christian Temple. That's why I put it that way on my screen right there. Instagram, same thing, handle @One Christian Temple. My YouTube channel, where I post my wrestling content, will be, you just go to youtube.com, search Christian Temple Wrestling. You can find all majority of my matches that I upload there. And you can also find my new podcast that I've been doing for this NFL season. It is the Trajan Temple Sportcast. Myself and my good friend, the terrible towel twirling Trajan. He's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Last week we covered the championship Sunday games that happened, where unfortunately my beloved Kansas City Chiefs fell to the Cincinnati Bengals. And in just a few minutes, we will be recording our new episode, which will preview the Super Bowl matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and I about said St. Louis Rams, but the Los Angeles Rams rather, for the upcoming Super Bowl. So we are super excited to cover that too. And if you are interested in my pro wrestling, or if you are interested in an NFL talk show, feel free to stop by, leave a like, or subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you on.
Oh, Christian, thank you so much for being a part. And you are officially now a member of the Wrestle Talk podcast family. And we hope that we can, hopefully we can have you on again soon sometime. And we'll talk more about wrestling and even some Kansas City Chiefs.
I would love to. I would love to come on. Just let me know. I'll be here.
All right. Thanks, Christian. Man, that was a good interview. I don't know about you, but I'm pumped. I'm gonna go into Luke's office tomorrow and talk about bringing in these guys to the St. Louis area. So I've only seen a couple of matches on YouTube that Renee posted. So Sonny can explain that. So
man, any promotion, and not just St. Louis, Kansas City area too. Book the Rebel Hearts. I promise it'll be worth the money. Book the Rebel Hearts. Book both of them. Epic Heart, Christian Temple, massive legend, Justin Gray. I promise you will not be disappointed in either one of those guys. But together as a tag team, it's even better. So, yes. Great interview, man. I'm glad I got to be a part of that. I'm glad I got over that sickness from QT. So,
yeah. So, I guess at this point in the festivities, we're going to take it to a break. What do we got for break music tonight, Big Hoss?
Probably do a little Remy Ricks.
All right. We're going to take us a break here of the Wrestle Talk podcast. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit. We got some more things to talk about with Sonny because he missed the high spot segment. I want to bring up something about Terminus, someone that's big in the Kansas City area that he might be interested that is going to be at the next Terminus show. But we also have Jason Strife is going to be our second hour guest here in just a little bit. So go ahead and enjoy the break. Get yourself something to drink. Make sure you take care of your bartenders, your waitresses, and tip the serving staff. So, Big Hoss, take it to break.
Return to the D was imminent. Step into the mic, it's like a brand new lyricist. I'm here to do what should have been done 10 years ago. You can't fuck with me, I'm stepping out the shadow. So walking overloaded, I'm ready to explode. I've lost all self-control. Setting your skills like Highlander, one slice, and I watch your head roll. It's a lyrical kamikaze when I unload on the mic. I'm ending everything I see. It's destruction on sight. Most it sound like a track with no bass. That's a deadbeat. Me on the other hand, I'm shattering the concrete, breaking down the doors to motion enemies within the opportunities. It's survival. I ain't going nowhere. I got immunity, more calculated, gruesome, and devastating than ever.
Sharper, lyrical spears that pierce straight through the armor. Golden, harder, kitchen, farther. Get the gear, we'll tear straight to the charts and slaughter any of you motherfuckers that can't see that we the best MCs, capiche? It's the return of
the effectiveness of my mind frame, just letting loose like I'm spraying with no air. Don't give a fuck who it is or who it is. I'm dropping back and split your wig like it's the weekend. Can't feel your face, but it wasn't the cocaine, it was the lead pipe that rattled your brain. Fuck, flipping the script, I'm gonna stop and spit all on it. Got my own rules, got my own code. Come and try me, bitch. Get with it again, hit with it. I ain't playing around. I'm the type to leave all my competition buried 6 feet underground. Surface weedy murder from the depths of hell. I hear him now. Remy's back. Oh shit, fuck my life. Drop the beat and I'll make the world suffer defeat. Ain't no one fucking with the return of the D.
Sharper, lyrical spears that pierce straight through the armor. Golden, harder, hitting, harder. Give me the gear, we'll tear straight to the charts and slaughter any of you motherfuckers that can't see that we the best MCs, capiche? It's the return of the D.
All right, everybody.
All right, welcome back to the Wrestle Talk podcast, episode 381. Can you believe we're at 381? I mean, it doesn't seem. We're gonna be celebrating 400 before we know it. I better go out and get my tux cleans because I think we should all be dressed to the nines during that show. Don't you think?
Let me know how that works out for you.
But we just had a great interview with the Epic Heart Christian Temple. You can check him out in the Kansas City area. Money's big on him. He's like going all in. So before we get to our second hour guest, I wanted to talk to you about Terminus. That's Jonathan Grisham's promotion running, and apparently someone from Journey Pro that's wrestled for Journey Pro and wrestled for St. Louis Anarchy, he's wrestled for Dynamo as well, wrestled for a bunch of stuff out in the Kansas City area. Kenny Alfonso is going to be part of Terminus.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. Yo, shout out to Kenny Alfonso. He's doing big things over here at Journey Pro. Any promotion he goes to, he does big things. I've been following Kenny Alfonso's career now for about 5 years. Actually, Night Owl also knows him very well. Kenny Alfonso was in a tag team, and he won, I believe at the time, it was his first tag team championship of his career in the Night Owls promotion. So, yeah, that's awesome, man.
He's teamed with the Dynamo Pro Heavyweight Champion as part of Alpha Omega.
Yep.
So he's doing big things. He's got Terminus. I mean, that's big on. That's going to be big for his. I mean, he's an awesome wrestler and super nice guy. I've only met him a couple times, but I mean,
very nice, always great with all the fans, man. Shaking hands and smiling and taking pictures, and couldn't ask for a nicer guy. Couldn't happen to a better guy.
And while we're talking about Journey Pro has a show coming up on February the 18th. The Love Below at is it Blip Roasters?
That is correct. It is Blip Roasters in the West Bottoms of Kansas City, Missouri, right there by downtown. Your boy Money Mayo will personally be in the house. I'm actually bringing Mrs. Money Mayo with me. So I couldn't think of a more romantic gift of 11 years of being together as a happy couple than me taking her into the shady part of downtown Kansas City and letting grown men with no shirts on and underwear slap each other around. It's going to be awesome, man. I can't think of nothing more romantic.
And Blip Roasters is actually literally is a coffee shop, right? It's a huge.
Yep, absolutely. It is a coffee shop, and they pack them in there. About 150, 200 people. The last show I went to was Thanksgiving back in November.
That poster was awesome.
Down there and attended it, and it was awesome. It was a great show, man. It was a great show, great setup.
That was a great poster too. That poster that they put out was absolutely amazing. They have some really creative. I know they had a show called Die Hard 2 is also a Christmas movie.
Yep. That was their Christmas time show, man. Hey, shout out to DJ Stewart and Hartzell Gray and everybody involved over there at Journey Pro, man. They're from their posters to their shows to their locations to the wrestlers they have on the card. They are really killing it. They're striking gold every single show. So major shout out to them.
Yeah, awesome. So Sonny, you didn't get a chance to mention anything during High Spots. Do you want to mention something real quick before we bring on our second hour guest?
Just overall, and I got to jump on. I believe it was last week. Personally for myself, I was very disappointed in the Royal Rumble. We heard the rumblings that Ronda Rousey was coming as soon as her music hit. I knew as a fan that she was going to win. Same thing with the men's Rumble. As soon as Brock's music hit, you knew he was going to win. At least I did. In my personal opinion, it should have been Kevin Owens. And I would have even took Randy Orton in the hometown of St. Louis, but I think that was Kevin Owens' moment. Correct me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen, but Kevin Owens has not won a Royal Rumble.
No, right? He has not. No.
So,
Randy Orton has won it twice, right. And I thought maybe they would give him the third because only one person has won the Royal Rumble 3 times, and that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And and I will tell you, from what I hear, the ovation, the pop that Randy Orton got in his hometown was absolutely deafening in the Dome. Even for being a huge cavernous place that the Dome is just
right.
Huge building, but you could just kind of tell that the ovation was right there. So
yeah, and I mean, there was grumblings a couple months back that Kevin Owens might not re-sign with WWE. As we know, he did. I believe if the dirt sheets are true, it was a 5-year deal. So we're going to see Kevin Owens in WWE for a while, God willing. He could have easily went to AEW, but I don't want to go down the WWE bashing rabbit hole. They do some good things, but I was not impressed with the Rumble. The meter's not clicking for me on Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. I
will say one thing I did like. I did like the Seth Rollins the Shield entrance. I thought that was great. That's great story. We talked about storytelling earlier. That's great storytelling.
And that's why I always say, guys, I don't want to be one of these fans who completely bashes WWE and talks about all the bad things they do, because I think we could spend a whole episode on that. But I want to be one of the fans who speaks up and go, they actually do some good things. They accomplish some good things here. I love Roman Reigns' run as a heel with the title, with I don't, between Paul Heyman jumping back and forth between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, there's some good storylines there. And as far as the Royal Rumble event itself, that was probably the best one, at least in my opinion, was Seth and Roman. And to start that show off, and the way that match finished with the DQ, I looked over at Night Owl and I actually told him, I said, this is going to be a really good pay-per-view. And the women's Royal Rumble was okay with, besides Ronda Rousey winning. My pick was Lita. I was hoping Lita would win it, in which good to see her still in the program. She's getting a title match at Elimination Chamber. But overall, I was just disappointed with the Royal Rumble, and it being my favorite pay-per-view of the year, it really kind of stuck.
And I think the Raw Women's Title match had a lot going against it. It followed the Women's Royal Rumble, which is one of the major events of the year. But also, it did not help that the WrestleMania sign caught on fire and they had to evacuate the section
like 3 times, right?
And then it caught on fire again after Brock won it.
Yeah.
So it was not a good night to be the WrestleMania sign.
It was not. No, it was not. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, because they don't know what they're doing at WrestleMania from what I'm hearing, between when the Hall of Fame is, or,
Right. They don't know when they're going to put the NXT show. There's rumors that the NXT show is going to be Saturday at 1:00, which is
right.
I don't know if I agree with that. The Hall of Fame is going to probably be after SmackDown. I don't know. Maybe move the Hall of Fame to SummerSlam weekend, where you only have one night. I mean, I don't know. There's no real answer to that. So, Big Hoss is our guest waiting in the backstage area.
Yes, he is.
All right, Sonny, you want to go ahead and do the introduction on this one, since I took care of Christian?
Oh, sure, absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a guest that I have been waiting to see and come on to the Wrestle Talk podcast, and now I have the pleasure, along with my other co-host of the evening, of giving this man an interview. He's a gentleman who's been in the business for 17 years. He's been to every promotion you can think of, including WWE. Ladies and gentlemen, now making his way to the Wrestle Talk podcast, the Bulletproof Tiger, Jason Strife. Jason Strife, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Man, I'm doing wonderful over here in Kansas City. I think my man DJ Big Sexy is doing pretty good over there in St. Louis. So we're enjoying our Tuesday night here on Wrestle Talk podcast, man. It's great to have you on. I've been looking forward to you being on the show for a long time.
Yeah, good. I love doing stuff like this. So this is a treat for me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Hoss, you want to? I'm sorry, Road Dogg, you want to go ahead and kick this off, buddy? You got a couple questions there for Mr.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk about, you have an event. There's an event that I saw that you're coming up for Magnum Wrestling, where you are taking on, it's February the 26th, Saturday in Omaha at Stocks and Bonds, or is it Stock and Bonds?
Stocks and Bonds. Stocks and Bonds,
where you're going to take on former Ring of Honor star, now in Impact, Mike Bennett.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to most? Besides, I believe he's doing a seminar for wrestlers, and that's probably one that any wrestler that's in the Nebraska area or within a couple hour drive would be an awesome to take a Mike Bennett seminar. So, what are you looking forward to most?
I mean, what I'm personally looking forward to the most is getting to wrestle Mike. I'm on a big kick for 2022 in terms of proving my worth and my ability in the ring. And there's no better people to do it with than guys like Mike Bennett. And I've got a lot of other surprises up my sleeve for Magnum Wrestling this year. So it'll be if you're not following us, I would advise you to do so. And if you've never been to a show, I would highly recommend you attend one. If you like the Journey Pro atmosphere, you would absolutely love ours because we run in a bar. It's no nonsense. Like, it's a big party with wrestling at it. So
Yep, and I can speak from experience. I haven't had a chance to make it up to Stocks and Bonds, but when you guys were running there in Ramada, you know, I had to gain enough brownie points with my wife to make that drive up to Omaha from Kansas City just for a wrestling show. But she came with me, man. We went to Ramada, and that was the card that you got to wrestle the NWA heavyweight champion at the time, Nick Aldis. And a hell of a match, Jason. A hell of a match, man. Look, I got goosebumps talking about it right now. So, and that was something I got to express to you when I got a couple minutes to talk with you at a Dirty Pro show recently. But I want to kind of bounce off of that here for a second. You are calling it Magnum Wrestling, but I believe when it started off, it was Magnum Pro Wrestling, correct?
Well, no, that's the thing. It was just Magnum Pro.
Okay.
Back when I started that in 2011, I was so sick and tired of, you know, the 3-letter monikers for wrestling companies. And so I wanted to do something different. Now, if you look around in like the last 5 years or so, maybe even less, everybody's running on just like something. I've watched people change their names from, you know, this and that and this and that, you know. And so, you know, that's when we took a break last September, just because I was burnt out, we needed a break. I decided it was who of us that we were going to rebrand, because I have a degree in business. I've handled all the business stuff for Magnum from day one, all the marketing, all that stuff. People don't realize I'm more than just a wrestler. Like, I'm pretty smart. And so one of the chief things that we always got feedback on was like, well, that's a cool logo, but like, what is Magnum Pro? Like, nobody understood it. Nobody knew what it was.
Right.
So like, in people's attention span nowadays, you're not going to get people to go and, you know, look you up on Facebook or Google something right away. And by that time, they're going to forget. So we just opted to, you know, me and my event producer, we just decided, it's like, you know what, like, we needed something that screams wrestling right out of the gate.
Yep.
And ironically, most of our social media handles were all at Magnum Wrestling because Magnum Pro was already taken. So it was like, well, just rebranded Magnum Wrestling, and, you know, it's Magnum Wrestling, high caliber live entertainment. And it just stuck. And we had to battle with a couple little things to make sure that all of our social media handles rolled over.
Yep.
And we got it. We did it. So it's not a problem, but it just worked out well. And then we did the logo change and everything. And I was skeptical of it at first. But as I started getting feedback from people, you know, at first people, it looks like a high school team's logo. And I was like, well, yeah, kind of a little bit. And then I had one person compare it to MLW, and I was just like whatever. So like I started to second guess it, but then once we got all of our new belts made and all of our promotional material done and like our turnbuckle covers done and everything, I was like, oh, dude, like this is killer. Like this is the most perfect way to do it. So, and then we actually went back to our old colors of black and purple. And then just added the silver onto it. So
I don't think what people actually realize what it takes to put on a wrestling show. Because I work for promotion. I work for promotion here in the St. Louis area, Dynamo Pro.
Yeah.
But you don't. people think it's just, oh, you got to rent a building, you got to rent some chairs, you got to get some wrestlers in there, you got to put up a ring and just do it. And no, there's promotion, there's media stuff that you can do nowadays. Shout out to Luke Roberts, the media man, the media guy for Dynamo Pro Wrestling, who gets all the wrestlers on different podcasts like the Wrestle Talk podcast. But I mean, you don't realize that. And day of show is the longest thing ever.
I hate it.
Set up. You got to get the merch table. You got to get the tickets. Here in Missouri, you have to make sure that you have the Missouri people give you a box to put the tickets in. You got to have cash for the concession stand if you're not using the bar's concession stand. There's a lot of work that does, and then it's the tear out. The tear out's just as worse. So it's you're pretty much going to be there pretty much at least 12 hours that day.
We have an awesome crew. Like, I don't know how many we're going to see this, but like, I got to give a shout out to just everybody involved at Magnum, and not just the guys on our roster, because, you know, we've got a lot of extra hands that come out and help set up and help and run little things. You know, like we do the things like the seminars with the names we bring in, and I'll have guys stick around and watch the show and help out with tons of stuff. I mean, we've got, ironically, the building that we're in, we've actually downplayed all of our production stuff. I actually ended up selling off a bunch of it. I mean, I probably had like $30,000 worth of production stuff, and I was just like, that's unnecessary. And so we just started selling it off, and now we use a pretty simple setup for an entrance. You know, we do like a truss and lighting when we feel like it. But outside of that, the bar has its own lights. They have their own sound. So we literally come in and we do the ring, set up the chairs and tables the way we need it, and put up our entranceway. And then my production guy handles all of our stuff in terms of setting up like our live stream and all that stuff. And
even that is still you're looking at like at least a 12-hour day. So it's just and you're absolutely tired afterwards unless you can get in there and set up the night before. But being a bar, you probably can't get in there the night before because they're probably open the night before for their own stuff. So they're probably like, okay, you can come in at 12 o'clock, like noontime or 10 o'clock in the morning and start setting up and getting everything done. It's a lot of work. I've done my fair share of tear-ins and tear-outs, and I don't necessarily get to do it as much anymore because my back's been bothering because of, you know, as I get older, your things start to crack as you stand up and move around. But yeah.
Hey, that don't matter, bro. You better grab a chair, man. We're all in this together, brother. You better grab
I put up the chairs. I've carried in rings, carried up certain venues. You have to carry up upstairs. So, you know,
I'll never do that. You'll have to pay me a lot of money to get me in a venue where I have to carry my shit upstairs. That is not happening.
I believe it was Bubba Ray Dudley talking about the old ECW when they used to run in Queens. It was the Elks Lodge in Queens, and they said that building, the setup was on the 3rd floor, so they literally had to carry the ring post, and there was no elevator. You know what I mean? There's no service elevator or anything. They're carrying ring post and the whole setup up 3 flights of stairs. So I mean,
no, I'll pass. I'll pass. I'll agree, Jason. I'll pass on that one. I'll be late. I'll be late to set up on that one. I'll make sure everything is in. I'll make sure everything is in and on the ground, ready to go. So
we just did a show last year sometime out in Illinois area. Myself and one of my students. It was for homegrown wrestling, and like the venue was really cool, but the way into the venue to bring everything up was the biggest incline of rickety old ass steps I've ever seen in my life, and it was just watching it I was scared.
Afraid you're gonna fall through the steps and
I'm not kidding you. It was terrifying. It was it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't vertical to go up, but I mean it was as close as you could get going up those steps that if you even tipped back, you were falling and you weren't hitting anything on the way down. And they carried the whole ring up there. So props to those guys.
Right.
Kind of keeping on this, Jason. So it makes me wonder, in your long and storied career that you've had, has there ever been any rings that have been like that? Or has there ever been any rings that you refuse to get into because they're just not a good setup?
Oh, man. I've gotten in every ring everywhere. The worst ring I've ever been in was Ian Rotten's ring.
Oh,
Old ring.
IWA?
Yeah. That just looking at that ring would have given you hepatitis. But it was that ring had so much history for me that I just didn't care.
Right.
Go for broke, man. I loved it.
And it's not always necessarily the rings that scare you. I've been in my fair share of terrible locker rooms. Locker rooms that I've heard of people in horse stalls. The worst locker room I was ever in was behind a blue tarp. It was a lawnmower shed at a VFW hall in a rinky-dink town up in Waynesville, Illinois. That's what it was. Waynesville, Illinois for Pro Wrestling Epic. And it just was you could fit two people in there. Everyone was changing behind the blue tarp. I mean, if someone just walked up and looked around, they'd see a whole bunch of wrestlers naked probably. So I mean, that's the worst locker room I've probably been in. So
I don't know if I had it beat, but we ran a show in Fremont, Nebraska outside a bar, and we literally changed in the fenced-in area where the dumpsters were.
Oh god! Oh
yeah,
no!
And luckily, the dumpsters are empty. It didn't smell like shit or anything. But there was broken glass on the ground, and it was at a bar. We were already up. I mean, half of us were already drunk before the show even started. It was nobody cared. We had a great time, but that was a pretty bad locker room. I've been to some other ones that were.
There's been some bad where it's cramped and you not everyone can get in there. It just if you get a locker room in a rec center or something like that with showers, you should just count yourself as lucky as can be, because
that's 5-star hotel status.
That's 5-star. That's 5-star. The building we run in at Concordia has a we change backstage on the stage, but there's also a actual locker room, weight room type thing downstairs with showers, and so you'll walk down there occasionally. You'll just see some of the wrestlers. They'll be pumping iron and stuff like that, and getting ready for the show. So if you get a venue like that, be happy, because it's not something that happens all the time.
Yeah, even as a fan here in Kansas City, there's a promotion called KCXW. They're about to run their first show. They stopped running shows because of the pandemic, but they're about to run their first show here towards the end of April. Please check them out, Kansas City Extreme Wrestling. And they run it in a venue called Soccer Nation, which is an indoor soccer field downtown Kansas City, and no AC in the building. And I mean, even as a fan, you have to have some heart to sit through a 2.5, 3 hour wrestling show with no AC, just hot as you could possibly think it is. So I can't imagine what it's like for them guys to get in the ring and put it on a 15, 20-minute match, man. More power to you guys. But Jason, to kind of keep this interview going here, man, and before I actually ask you this next question, I love that shirt. That shirt is bad.
I was thinking the same thing. I didn't know if I wanted to bring up his shirt, but it's got Roddy Piper on it, and any shirt with Roddy Piper is.
Yo, I think I see Giant Gonzalez on that shirt too. So shout out to that shirt, man. But no, so what I want to know, Jason, and this is something that I don't know. I usually know it about some of the bigger names here in the Midwest, but I don't know your origins. I mean, what made you get into professional wrestling? Was there a moment you watching wrestling as a fan, or was there a wrestler himself or a card, or what made you get into professional wrestling?
I stumbled into wrestling, actually. I was a wrestling fan as a kid, kind of lost touch with it. It came back around high school when I had some mutual friends that were into it. We did the whole backyard wrestling thing, but I was dead set on being a stuntman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was dead set on being a stuntman. I wanted to wreck cars, get lit on fire, and fall off buildings because I'd make a lot more money and I'd probably be a whole lot safer than what I'm doing now. So I had plans to go out to Seattle, Washington for a 6-week fully accredited stunt school right out of high school. Like I wasn't going to go to college. I didn't care about college. I had no desire to go to college, get a degree, nothing. And so when I started looking into it and I inquired about it, I found out that you had to be 20. I'm assuming because of laws or something out there would be my guess. But so I just I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna work. I'm just gonna work, save up money. Maybe I'll go to college for a little bit, get an associate's degree, just so I have something to put on a resume. Took a year off from school after I graduated before I decided to go to college. But I was working, and it just an independent show for a local place popped up. Like I was aware of the local company that we had here.
Right.
They had a school. It was the Omaha Wrestling Association. And I looked at it when I was younger, like when I was 16, because they would have trained 16-year-olds. But being a preacher's kid and having a mom that's a nurse, super overprotective, they would never sign a waiver for me to train. So, you know, if I'd have got into it when I was 16, who absolutely knows where I would be. But I was like, all right, well, whatever. And I was at work one day and found out that they were having they renamed their company and was running a show at the junior high school here. And for a guy in our area that had gone down to Harley Race's school and had a brain aneurysm and passed away.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was Chip Douglas.
Wow.
Kid was phenomenal.
Right.
Had charisma that you could literally feel, like when you talk to him. If he was still in things, he would be on TV without a doubt.
It'd be safe to say he had the it factor.
Yeah, absolutely. So we went to that show that night, and we had a good time. Me and my friends had a good time, and so like we were talking to the guys afterwards, and another guy told me that he's like, hey, yeah, there's a show tomorrow in this little town called Marion for some little festival deal. And he's like, yeah, if you guys are free, come on up. He's like, you'll come hang out. You can set up the ring or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, well, we didn't have anything else going on. I had to work, but I went into work and was like, yeah, I don't feel good. I'm leaving. And then we left because like, I didn't care. I was an assistant manager at Foot Locker. Nice shithole to work for. So he was like, whatever. Like, so we just.
Did you have to wear the stripes, bro, at Foot Locker? Were you in the stripes?
Yeah. That long ago.
Yeah.
So we went up to the show and got to talking to the guys, and one of the guys goes, hey, I recognize you. And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you've been out to the school, right? And I'm like, yeah, I've come and checked it out. Like, you know, I've got time to kill. And he's like, well, forget talking to anybody else. He's like, come out. He's like, I'll train you myself.
Oh, really?
So I was like, all right, cool. And that guy, his name was Hype Gotti. And so that following Tuesday,
shout out to Hype Gotti. When I moved out here from Philadelphia and moved to Kansas City, we're talking 2000, 2001. I remember going to watch Hype Gotti, Derek Stone, Jeremy Wyatt, Mark Sterling, all them guys. So shout out to Hype Gotti.
Absolutely. So Hype handled the majority of my in-ring training, like right out of the gate. But Hype Gotti being Hype Gotti, he was really flaky. So I think I trained with him only like a few times. I literally look back at it now. I think I've only had like 6 to 8 weeks of actual in-ring training before I started. And so I went out there and started training with him. And at the same time, if you know Hype Gotti, you should know Jaden Drago. Yep. I actually started working with him and his old man at their t-shirt printing shop.
Oh, okay.
And Drago has a phenomenal mind for wrestling. So he handled all the psychology side of my training. So all we did for 8 hours a day was watch wrestling and pick everything apart, and he would teach me the psychology of things. So I was getting everything from two different areas,
Right.
which is perfect for me. And me being me, I was never satisfied. So like I did every seminar I ever could get my hands on.
Yeah.
Luckily at the time, Ian Rotten was working with the Ritters out in Muscatine. And so they were bringing guys in all the time. So I was out there training with guys like P. Williams and Chris Sabin, Samoa Joe, Ian Rotten, Steve Carino. I mean, the list goes on. I've probably done like 150 seminars, if not more. So,
but that's not a bad thing.
No,
wrestlers should do more seminars. I mean, more of the local guys should. If there's a seminar available, you should definitely get on board.
And knowledge is power, and that goes to anybody in the wrestling business, not just wrestlers, but even for dumbasses like myself who's want to get back into the business as a ring announcer a little bit. Pay attention, study, but show up to shows, pay your dues, do what's right. You know what I mean? But Jason, you said something there that was pretty interesting. You said 6 to 8 weeks of training. Now, with a guy like yourself, been in the business all these years, you've mentioned you've done some training, you've done some promoting, and you're still an active wrestler and kick ass at that. But what would your advice be to wrestlers like that, or even what's your mind frame on that? Do you think that there should be a certain amount of time that they should be in a school before they get on a show and have a match, or do you believe that kind of that old school thinking of listening in the car and listening in the locker room and watching and observing?
I think it's a combination of both. First and foremost, anybody that ever contacts me about getting trained for wrestling, I tell them to find a reputable school. We've got another company here in town that does camps, training before their show, and any Joe Blow that shows up and set up their ring can take part in it. Yeah. And they have unqualified and uneducated people trying to train people on stuff. And then I get those people messaging me like, oh, well, I've done training here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. Right. I don't care if you step foot in that ring and wrestle a show there. Like, if you don't go through my 3-month curriculum, I won't touch you.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
I developed my curriculum after numerous amounts of trial and error.
Right.
And, I narrowed it down to like 3 months would be like the bare minimum. And it's like a basic intensive course. Like when people get done training with me, I make sure that they can go anywhere, have a competent match. They can be safe.
Yep.
Their opponent can be safe, and they can do what needs to be done.
Right. That's the thing is you got to find a reputable school because St. Louis has got a couple of schools. We're close to the Harley Wrestling Academy. Mm-hmm. That's still running. Leland's running that. Got the Dynamo Pro Dojo. Davey Richards just started up a Team Ambition up here in St. Louis. Bob Orton has a school here too as well. So we're good in the St. Louis area, but it's different for everybody because you don't know how quick they're going to pick it up, how quick they're going to be able to, not be dangerous. I mean, some people they could pick it up in maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. Some people it's going to take 6 months, 8 months. I mean, I don't know what you think about that. So,
I mean, it definitely is a person by person basis. I've got a handful of students that are still very active and people that I will put my seal of approval on. I've got one kid that picked it up after, the 3-month course. He was ready to go, but he came back and ran it 2 more times. So he trained nonstop for 9 months.
Right.
And absolutely 100%. Like, if any of them listen to this, they're going to get hurt because they always do. But I always tell them, like, he's my standout guy. Like, he gets it. He's still training.
Right.
But the counterpoint to that is depending on what you want to do in wrestling, you have to do so much more. And I mean that from the standpoint when we reopened our school, I teamed up with one of my students who was a very well-known MMA fighter. And right in the exact same building, he was doing MMA and kickboxing and things like that. And I told those guys all the time, I was like, yo, you really want to learn how to strike? Go take his classes.
Right.
Want to work on your cardio? Go take his classes. Like, people think that they can just go to a school and run through a class and like they're set and ready to go. Like,
Right.
that's to me, that's not the thing. Like, I've trained MMA, I've fought MMA. Like, I've obviously wrestling for as long as I have. I am a black belt in Taekwondo. Like, all of that stuff combines to make me the very good professional wrestler that I
am. And we talked about it earlier. Is like we talked about with the first interview. It's more about just getting. It's like in football. You have to get starter reps. You have to get reps in the ring against actual opponents on a show, even if it's just an opening of a show, or get yourself into a battle royal as a young upstart. You know. I
think that's one of the things that bothers me most, not just in the Midwest, but all throughout the U.S., is that there's so many shady promoters, so many shady schools. I've seen instances where guys, and they don't know any better, they're just a fan of the business, and they think they can get in there, just any Joe Schmo. I've seen a guy within the past 5-6 years got into the ring, was training, ended up breaking his hip. You know what I mean? And that affected his entire life. He's going to deal with that entire life, so on and so forth. So, it's about, and you guys said it, safety number one. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your opponent. Well, all the other things that come along with it, cardio, knowledge, so on and so forth, and just constant learning. The learning never stops. The learning never stops, man.
So Jason, I want to talk about some of the. I was doing some research on you and talk about some of the wrestlers that you've wrestled, kind of in this area. I know you've been in the St. Louis area before. You've been in Kansas City before, but
minimal in St. Louis. I wish I could get down there more.
You're busy with your own stuff, so.
Well, I mean, wrestling is my job, so right. I run shows once a month,
right?
Unless we get called, like March, we have 2 shows because we've got a show at a brewery, which is probably going to turn into a regular quarterly thing. But outside of that, like, wrestling is my job. So,
right. But you've been in the ring with a couple of the people I've seen that you've been in the ring with. Jeremy Wyatt. Talk about Jeremy Wyatt in the ring.
My favorite professional wrestler to be in the ring with.
Wow,
hands down. And when it comes to the discussion about the absolute best wrestlers in the Midwest, my name gets thrown around and Jeremy's name gets thrown around.
Jeremy,
I absolutely 100% of the time will just absolutely say Jeremy is the single best professional wrestler.
He actually lives up to his monarch gimmick that he had. He's the.
I've told him numerous times, and anytime his name gets mentioned, I always say that he is an absolute wizard in that ring. From the time he walks out of that curtain to the time he goes back into that curtain, he's an absolute wizard. He holds the people in the palm of his hand, and I 100% agree with you there, Jason.
I did a tournament with him, and he was wrestling all the way into the finals. I seen him. He comes out, and you would think that after his first time coming out, he would just get in one person's face. No, he got into someone else's. That's what his thing is. He likes to get into the fans' faces, and he got into 3 different fans' face. It was a different one on a different side of the ring each time he came to the ring, and he's so smart. And also, there's another person I want to ask you about because he's big. He was big here in the St. Louis area and holds a special place here in St. Louis. Dingo. You knew who I was going to talk about, Dingo.
Yeah, I love Dingo. Yeah, man. Me and Dingo went to war for Ian. Our matches at IWA Mid-South were fucking brutal. I loved wrestling Dingo. We had a lot of fun together. He was really good. I mean, like, he just fit in perfectly everywhere he went. Like, he could do it all. Right. So that's what made him so good.
He could do the hardcore stuff, but he could also mat wrestle. He could also, do, it's just awesome. And I know St. Louis Anarchy is doing a Dingo Invitational tournament later on this year. So,
I'm not gonna lie. after the wars we've had for Ian and the history Dingo and I have, for me not to be invited to that, it pisses me off a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah, and he also faced Delirious too. Delirious ran the GCW Gateway Championship Wrestling Dojo here when it was here, and he's in part of Ring of Honor. Do you have any memories of Delirious?
Yeah, man. So I was on a lot of shows with Delirious for Ian, and then PWP up here had me wrestle him one time after I had won the Midwest X Division title, and it was great, man. He was just, he's a consummate professional. His gimmick is phenomenal.
He doesn't have to talk. He just spouts random like words that don't even go together.
Well, that's the thing. There is actually a method to his madness, and he told me about it once. And I don't know if it would behoove me to tell everybody how exactly he does what he does, but I was privy to it, and it's awesome. But part of how the Yellow Dog works is inspired by Delirious. So
yeah, it just you've worked with some really, really great people here in the Midwest. Wyatt being the best, Dingo. I've only seen Dingo wrestle. He tried to come back, and then he's got that injury that he couldn't come back from. And it sucks that you have to go. But I'm not quite sure. I bet you Dingo could probably still pull a pretty darn good match off if he tried. So
I'm sure he could. He had it. He got it.
So we're talking about all these wrestlers you face, and first and foremost, I know this is a business. You make your living off of this business, but has there been any moment in this business where you had a mark-out moment, whether it's being in a certain ring or a certain building or going against a certain wrestler?
Doing 205 Live for the WWE with Tozawa.
Yeah,
that was really cool. It was cool because I came to the ring and I'm watching people leave because they're taping 205 Live, and I already had a history with Tozawa because we had wrestled a few times, and we had talked often, and when they were like, hey, we're gonna have you wrestle Tozawa, we were both super excited because we were familiar with each other, so it was easy.
Yep.
But I'm standing out there, I'm coming out to the ramp while it's dark, and I'm looking at everything. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. Cool. I get in the ring. The ref's like, hey, don't jump up and down. The ring's mic'd. I'm like, yeah, fair, okay. And then as I'm sitting there, and then the lights come back on, and I'm just watching people leave. I'm like, oh well, this kind of sucks. But I've got random handfuls of people hollering at me, and then all of a sudden, when they announce my actual name, I watch people stop, turn around, and just sit in the nearest seat that they were by, and sit back down and watch. So it was that was really cool. It was getting to see, stopping people in their tracks, getting to see that. That was cool. And then working for AEW was really cool. Just those atmospheres. Those atmospheres, it's just so different compared to an indie show. I love independent professional wrestling because the interaction, being able to be personable, or when I'm a heel, which I prefer to be, I love being able to look a person dead in the eyes when I just bury their dick in the dirt when they think they can mouth off to me. I love it.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about wrestling in a gigantic arena, and I don't want to say the ease that comes along with that, but it's a completely different animal.
Right.
Wrestling for TV and wrestling for a crowd, two completely different things.
And
I prefer wrestling for TV because it's so much easier on my body.
Right.
But
And that's what I've heard, man. But all things considering, I think everybody in this business, regardless of what they say, and some people are super marks, and some people are in it just for the business and just for the money. But to say that you've got to wrestle for the WWE and all of its lineage, man, that's super cool. And again, wherever you stand in this business, to say that you've actually had a match with WWE to me is super super duper cool, bro.
yeah,
So.
bucket list stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And and I've seen a lot of cool things in professional wrestling. As a kid growing up in Philly and ECW and CZW and all the independent promotions out there in the Philly and Jersey area, and then to come out to Kansas and there not be when I moved out here about 2001, there wasn't really wrestling in Kansas City. Man. There really wasn't. I had to the St. Joe, and that's when I came across the Hype Gottis and the Jeremy Whites and his young career, and Derek Stone and Crow.
Yeah, oh God, I love Craig.
Yeah,
God,
man.
I love Craig. You got to put him on the list. I have to put him up there.
Yeah.
I love wrestling Craig.
Yeah, you have to put Niles on that list just for the simple fact of the knowledge he drops about the wrestling business on Facebook. Some of his posts, his rants alone. That's why you have to put him up there. But also because we just had him on the Wrestle Talk podcast recently, and he had a killer interview. And I wouldn't expect nothing less, but he had a killer interview. But hey man, that's why we're here, because we absolutely love this business one way or another. You know what I mean? So Road Dogg, you got any questions for our boy Mr. over here? Because I got that game show challenge. I cannot wait to appreciate that, sir.
I think we need to go ahead and get into that Wrestle Talk, the game show challenge. We'll bring Haas back in here. Haas, do you have any? Before we get to that, do you have any questions for Jason?
I'm actually pretty good. I've been listening to the interview here, and most of the questions I actually had have already been asked. So, I'm good. So let's go ahead and get into this game show challenge.
Big, just so you know, Jason, Big Haas is up in the Virginia, West Virginia, Baltimore area. He takes care. He takes care of things up in that area. So.
Well, the way I'm looking at this, Jason, we're going to go ahead and get this game show challenge going. After the game show, we'll go ahead and get your social. And then if there's anything else you'd like to speak on, any upcoming shows in 2022 with Magnum Wrestling and all that. But right now, it's time to get serious, gentlemen. It's time for the game show challenge. Hit that music, Paul. That should be someone's entrance music. Okay, gentlemen, welcome to this week's installment of the world-famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contestant is scheduled for is the best 2 out of 3 falls. Tonight's contestants are Wrestle Talk Podcast's own Big Sexy Chris Rodell and the Bulletproof Tiger Jason Strife. In a few moments, I will ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. Whenever you think you know the answer, all you have to do is shout it out. You can shout it out during my question. You can wait till my question ends. But whoever shouts it out first and gets the answer right, they get the point.
Yeah, what did you bad?
Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast game. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge category is the Elimination Chamber. I will give you information about 3 professional wrestlers that have won the Elimination Chamber match. When you think you know who I'm talking about, please, again, just shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 falls will win tonight's contest. Jason, you understand the rules on that, bud?
Yeah.
Okay. You ready? Road Dogg, you ready?
Yeah, the host. Let's just be straight. The hosts don't do the best at this podcast, at this challenge. We've gotten better here lately, but we're not very good at this. So,
see, I'm not a big I don't have trivia, history stuff. Anything modern day, I am not good at. So,
Well,
Would be interesting.
either way, this is going to be great, and this is going to be entertaining. So let's bring it on both of your ends. Here we go. I'm going to hit you guys with question one. Here we go. After losing the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 14 and taking a hiatus for several years due to a broken back,
Shawn Michaels.
there you go. 1 point
That's
for
the only one I know. I can promise you that's the only one I know.
And those ugly brown tights.
Yep, the unfinished tights.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. All right, 1 point for the Bulletproof Tiger there. Okay, here we go. Question two. This current champion in WWE won the ECW Championship at the only WWE presented December to Dismember event. This accomplished amateur wrestler went on to win countless.
Bobby Lashley.
I was about to say that.
That's a point for Road Dogg over there. Oh, boy, we're tied up. Here we go. This is the tiebreaker. Are we ready, gentlemen?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question three. This current member of the SmackDown roster won the last Elimination Chamber match. However, after the conclusion of the match, he lost the WWE World Heavyweight Championship when The Miz cashed in his Money in the Bank contract. Most recently, this wrestler was eliminated by Brock Lesnar to win this year's Men's Royal Rumble match. Name him.
Randy Orton?
Yeah. Fuck.
No, Randy Orton's a Raw superstar.
I will give you guys a hint on this. He is not from America.
Jinder Mahal? What the fuck? What?
Kevin Owens?
Drew McIntyre.
Who said that?
I did.
There you go. We got a winner, ladies and gentlemen.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there.
Wow.
That's awesome. So, Jason, thank you for coming on to the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. It was a great interview. Talked about a whole bunch of topics. Why don't you go ahead and shout out anything, all your socials, your Facebooks, your Instagram, anything that you want to get put over, and take care of the show.
You can find me on Twitter. I hate Twitter with a passion.
Twitter is a cesspool.
Twitter's a cesspool. I absolutely 100% will not follow you back. But I will interact if you talk with me. So at Jason Strife, pretty easy. But more importantly, follow at Magnum Wrestling on everything. Twitter, Facebook. We've got a YouTube page. We've got a Patreon. If you don't live close by and want to watch our shows, one of our Patreon tiers has a single camera live stream of the event. It's basically every month. It's the cost of a GA ticket. And if we run more than one show in a month, you get more than one show. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon. There's a TikTok. We don't use that yet, but we're going to start. I've got some young girl that's going to help me manage the TikTok. So she's pretty smart. So that hopefully we can see that take off. But yeah, man, like
And if you're a wrestler in the Nebraska area, within maybe an hour, 2 hours at the most, make sure that you hit them up for the Mike Bennett seminar. That's going to be big. Jason Strife is going to take on Mike Bennett on February 26th at Stocks and Bonds at I believe it's something with vengeance in the title. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Don't sweat the technique.
Don't sweat the technique.
Yeah. Most of our show names are they're typically pop culture references. Our March show, our March show is called King of the North, and I guess I'll drop it here because I have the graphic. I have to update everything. We're gonna have Josh Alexander.
Nice.
So So the show's King of the North. April is Magnum Mania. which we tentatively have Davey Richards and Alex Shelley scheduled for. Yeah, we just do a lot of crazy stuff. That's how I like to do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep doing it. But you can always find me at Magnum as long as I don't have to deal with any like health related issues. I deal with a lot of that. So that's why
I also saw that on your post that you are not changing people's tables this time. Apparently,
oh God, absolutely not. Like I don't understand. It's entitled white people. Like I love all of our fans, but they're like, "Oh, I bought this table, but I want to sit by my friend." I'm like, no, then get on the computer and buy the fucking table and pick it. Like, it drives me nuts. But it's I thought a promoter, so I can deal with it.
I thought that was interesting that she posted is like, I am not moving people's seats. You will sit at your assigned table.
I have done it for over a year and a half, without fail, every show. So yeah, and then I redid all the seating charts through our ticketing site, and like I did it differently, so it screwed everything up. And I was like, we had all the rebrand with the comeback for the next show, and we didn't have any opportunity to label the tables. So I was dealing with that all night. Then I had to go out and wrestle in the main event. It drove me nuts. So
the things that you don't think that the promoters have to deal with is those little things that annoy you the most. So
think about wrestling on the show and being a promoter. And think about wrestling twice on the same show and being the promoter.
You're a crazy man. You're a crazy man, Jason Strife.
A glutton for punishment.
Well, Jason, we appreciate you being on the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. We hope to have you back soon. You are a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family.
Absolutely. Jason Strife, you are now part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, my man. Anytime we have a guest on here, you are now officially part of the family. Jason, I hope to make it up to Omaha, up the Stocks and Bonds. I hope to check out some Magnum Wrestling. If I don't get a chance to, I'll definitely be checking you out down at Journey Pro and cheering you on, baby. So Jason Strife, hopefully, fingers crossed, somewhere in Kansas City. I know I'll see you in Kansas City somewhere. So fingers crossed.
You should soon. So
spoiler coming.
But Jason Strife, you are the man in the ring. You are the man on the interview mic, and you are the man outside the ring. And thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview with us. And welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast family, my friend.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Man, I tell you, this has been a really fun 2 hours. 2 great interviews, Christian Temple and Jason Strife. We talked about WWE. We talked about tournament. We talked about a little bit about everything, man. Sonny, is there anything else that you want to talk about real quick before we go? Or
sorry to all my loyal fans out there that I was not here the first quarter of the show, but you know what?
So all 2 of them.
Well, 1.5 because one's a small person. I don't really correct name, midget, dwarf. But hey, shout out to all of them, man. And
are you catching any wrestling this weekend anywhere in the? I don't know is there anything in the KC area or?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe there's anything in the KC area. This weekend I'll probably have to go over and shine Night Owl's shoes or like clean his windows or do something like that. But no KC wrestling this upcoming weekend. There is a lot of great Kansas City wrestling coming up with DWF with
Journey Pro next weekend. I know that.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Journey Pro is on the 18th or is on the 19th.
Looking forward to. So it'll be a lot of brownie points this weekend with the wife and the kids to get ready for that show. I will be in attendance this time for that Journey Pro show.
Renee says that you have to wash his car.
Yeah, that's no problem. I mean, he has a big truck. It takes me a couple hours, but as long as he buys me a slice of good pizza and not Quick Trip pizza. You know what? Hold on. Let me stop here. Before we end this podcast tonight, I'm tired of shitting on Quick Trip. Quick Trip, I've loved you. You've been in there for me in my darkest hours with them chili cheese dogs that you used to have back in the day, with your cheeseburgers, with your fire iced teas. Quick Trip's got a lot going on. I'm sorry for shitting on you, Quick Trip. I love you.
Big Hoss, what you got going? I know you said you were going to, I believe, WDWA up there this weekend.
Yeah, going over to the WDWA show we were talking about earlier. You know, looking forward to some big matches there, and it's always exciting. And they actually run I believe it's the second and fourth Saturday of every month in Martinsburg. They run a show, so it's twice a month, and just really looking forward to that. And we have ATCW in this area, Maryland Championship Wrestling. There's a lot of different people in this area, so there's always something going on.
Right, I understand. I have my choice of 3 different shows to go to this weekend if I want to catch a little bit of wrestling action. We got SICW at the East Carondelet Community Center on Saturday, February the 12th. MMWA has Fallout 22 at the historic South Broadway Athletic Club, and also WLW is running at the Race Arena this weekend too. Derek Stone's going to be there, John Webb, a whole bunch of other people. So within certain mileage here in the St. Louis area, we got a lot of wrestling stuff going on. So
that I-70 interstate there, buddy, between my hometown of KC and your hometown of St. Louis, man. There's a lot of.
And one of these times, I need to get out to a Saturday Kansas City show eventually, because I think we all need to go to get some Joe's Barbecue or some kind of a good barbecue out in that area. So
yeah, absolutely. Let me take you to the spot, because if you rely on Night Owl, you're going to end up with like a Quick Trip pork burrito, and you don't want that in your Don't ask for Night Owl. Ask for Money Mayo. I'll take you to the good spot.
So did we get everything this week, guys? Am I missing something?
Shout out to all our sponsors. Before one more time. Hey, Hoss, can we get the sponsors across there one more time, buddy? Because you know what? With sponsors, all of us here at the Wrestle Talk Podcast wouldn't be here every Tuesday night live. So shout out to Everything Combat. Shout out to the boys over there at Kincaid Arcade. Shout out to my boy B Will over there at East Sports Bar in KC. Shout out to everybody at Interstate 70 Sports Media. My man Royals Mills Transportation. Painter's Dream Productions, Rathburn Engraving, Me Fiesta KC Party Rentals, Nobles Men's Barber Lounge, Ask for Pete the Barber. I'm taking my kids there this weekend. And last but not least, every human being there in the FWWC. FWWC going as strong as ever. So shout out to all of our sponsors there. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to get together here every Tuesday night, bring you great guests, and listen to me complain about stupid things. So,
and also real quick, let's shout. We got to shout out Celeb Fest 4, going to be taking place in a couple months in the Baltimore area. They've already announced that the New Age Outlaws, Earl Hebner, and the Hardy Boys, and today they just announced that Tony Storm is going to be a guest at the Celeb Fest 4. So,
wow. That's a great Celeb Fest there, man. That's going to be a lot of fun to attend.
And that's just the start. I mean, I know Chad. I know he's going to have a lot of big names to introduce here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who all it is that he gets. And he always has a heck of a lineup. So
it's going to be great. So, well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure hosting with you guys. Money, I know you were a little bit late, but you're good. You're good to go. You brought the heat tonight. Me and Hoss took care of the high spot segment, and we tore it up. So I guess all we got to say is,
yeah, you guys did excellent. And thank you guys again for holding it down. And my condolences for being late. I'm glad we got to interview Epic Heart. I'm glad we got to interview Mr. Strife. Great interviews tonight. Great show tonight, boys. We'll do our podcast every Tuesday.
And we're going to do it again next week. Episode 382 comes your way next week, on the 15th February.
Yeah.
Renee, I believe it's going to be Renee and Dick Douglas again. So I know. Yeah, but so all right, everybody.
I think I may have a clip, a little preview for that show. Let me see. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Let's hit that. Yeah, if you got that preview, let's hit that.
Yeah, I think I got a preview of that show.
That's awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, please check out Wrestle Talk Podcast next week. Night Owl and Dick Douglas do a phenomenal job. As much shit as we give them, they really do. That's a shoot. They do a phenomenal job. So Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, man. This is awesome tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna wrap it up for episode 381 of the world famous Wrestle Talk podcast. For Luke Roberts on assignment, for Sunny Money Mayo, for Hardcore Hoss, and myself, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Wrestle Talk podcast, WrestleTalkPodcast.com, Wrestle Talk Podcast on Facebook. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you again next Tuesday night.
Peace.